Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCGFAM show. Viewer question 17.
Okay, in the comments below, I need to know, what's your method of removing ticks from your dog? I'm going to start it right there. That's what I need to know. I've tried the hot match on the butt. I've tried the massage clockwise or counterclockwise, and they back out. I've tried, tonight I'm doing these. Huh?
You tried a veterinarian?
I'm not paying that much money to remove a tick. It's a tick.
It's like, only if there was some medical professional who could.
Well, even they will tell you, oh, you do this and that, and it's like that, or here, put Vaseline on them. And they'll suffocate them or make them back out so they can breathe. And it's like, but then where did they go when they back out?
It might come after you.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you get Lyme's disease.
The call's coming from in the house.
So I got these tools to try.
Okay.
Where you put their little body in there and then you just twist it and then pull. So, but he's got one on his chest.
Don't they break off or something?
Well, if you do it with your fingers, you tend to want to grab them. So then you snap them, or this, it won't pinch them, it just gets them, and then you get a torque. So we'll see. I'll let you know. But if you guys have
dog sat on my lap.
Well, it's embedded in its chest. It's not like birthing baby ticks out of its butt.
All right. Okay. See,
it's not an aphid.
Country folk.
Country dogs. You're a country dog. Hi, Juby.
So, in the comments on that, and then
that's what's most important today. I need to know how to remove a tick. And not from a human.
Oh. Those are bad.
He's got it.
Oh, okay.
It's right here.
He's such a sweet boy.
Right there.
Oh, jeez.
See it?
Yes?
Right on his esophagus, even.
God.
All right, just get down there, buddy. Good boy. Sit.
Oh.
All right.
Thinking about that tonight. I have questions. Viewer questions.
Why do bad things happen to good people? Just kidding. All right, what do you
God hates you.
Well, you were chosen to be hated.
Yeah. Nectar for the Gods is absolutely amazing. I bought the Pro line. I got the big box in Massachusetts, and I'm loving it in a 4x4 Gorilla tent with a 1,000-watt LED. That's a lot of LED for a 4x4, isn't it? Or am I wrong
about the foot? If you have the right environmental control, it's about the right footprint.
Oh, baby.
That's some good light. Stay up.
Socks. Oh,
go Sox.
Red Sox.
He said in Boston or Mass, so...
Yeah, there you go.
He's a Mass guy.
Funny story there. I convinced one of my children that before they were born I had played baseball for the Yankees.
One of your children?
Just the one.
Okay.
Boo-boo. Joyce was like, she just asked me about when you were playing baseball. Like, what? Oh,
for the Yankees, yeah.
Yes.
Prior life.
Yep. Anyway, there's no question here, but I have a question. What advice would you give to somebody just starting out in a tent?
Oh, because he went out and bought the Roman.
No, the Pro.
Which is Roman.
Well, is it?
Well, Roman minus Circes and whatever would have been new in that time. Because
they still sell the old feed chart at some of the stores.
They may have some, but what was it? Simple, Advanced, and Pro.
Pro is Kraken and a few things that no Persephone or...
Yeah, Kraken and Persephone are the only differences. But, and I get that email a lot is, I'm about to go all in. What are the products I need the most? Or what are the, and I still stick with what we offer in that sample kit is that the first 4 to 6 products in the line and then let the line develop in your grow versus... Don't follow the guy's feeding schedule that did well, but he's been using the same feeding schedule for 8 years. He got to that point in 8 years, but he started with the 4 or 5 or 6.
So you got the whole Snap-on toolkit, but change your oil first.
Absolutely. Just use the wrench in the one socket and you're good.
And then work your way into it. So you would go with the Greek or somewhere in there and then have those other ones available to you as tools and learn those as you go with the line. You wouldn't just dive in.
And even now, after diving all the way in and being, developing and helping develop these products over all these years, I'm still like Spartan Plus. Not Spartan, Greek.
Greek Plus,
Greek Plus minus, really, because when I'm adding, I'm taking away and... I just found what I like in my garden, what it does and produces, and then I still have guys that run the full running. But never, ever, ever will I ever tell you that this bottle is going to be all the difference in the world, and if you don't use all 17 products, you can't grow good product because it's not true. I mean, some of the best flour comes off of 4 to 6 products.
So I assume at some point you moved from outdoor to indo.
Honestly, I went from indoor to outdoor.
Really? Oh, because of the
Eugene.
man.
Yeah, wow, the man and
the
thieves.
Oh.
I mean, every time I tried to grow outdoor in Lane County, it would just get robbed before it was done. So I'm not from Southern Oregon. I mean, down there you start outdoor because everybody and their brother has them. But up here, I started indoor, attic style, and quietly.
Yeah. What do you now that there's tents and lights and so it would seem like you got a lot more going on. You've got a lot higher boom atmosphere with the genetics, and another question relates to that. Someone's like they were, tried an old strain, I think,
Oh yeah.
And it's like it was just okay. You got all these tools now, and you got all these hyper,
so much more. Well, you have you bought a Volkswagen Beetle with nitrous installed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened. It's go back to the Beetle and then figure out how to make it a racing Beetle. But when we started, it was we didn't have fancy everything. We mylar'd the ceilings and we did base up metal halides, and the ceilings were the reflector. There was no such thing as an inline fan or a vortex fan. They were literally, did you get the big or the little squirrel cage? It was like 465 CFM squirrel cage. So, we started from a different cloth, and I mean, we're all growing the same thing. Honestly, I think it's more difficult for a grower today. I mean, there's so many more tools, there's so much more info, but you have so much influence on. You have to buy the best light, the best CO2 equipment, the best this. I mean, you could be $25,000 in and not even put a seed in the ground yet.
Yeah.
And that's like when we started, you'd be like, oh, you're going to Portland for some tomato equipment? Yeah. Here's $100. Get me a fan. Because that's what you did.
Yeah.
And so it's, I'm a little, I feel bad for the newest grower because there's so much to consider. And, I want to always bring it back to keep it simple, stupid. Start elementary. Build it into a profession, but you have to start by going. Put your money and time into you and the plant, not the big picture.
Sure.
The best light, the best controller, the best Wi-Fi, the best. So you've outsmarted your own plants.
So temperature, humidity, getting your watering lined out, these sorts of things.
Intake, outtake, temperature, and airflow, and then lighting. And and all you pros out there that are sitting there, what a douchebag. I know, it's not the point. The point is, this guy who's got $600 in his pocket to grow his own medicine, don't buy the $1,000 light with your $600. It's not worth what you think it's going to be worth. You can always go up to that stage.
Sure.
So learn the plant, learn how it reacts, then buy all the frills and fancy stuff to make that thing perform better.
So pest control, would you focus just on cleanliness, or is there anything you would add to that to try to get ahead of the game with pest control?
Yeah, pest control, it's such it's a revolving door of nightmares because if I personally have found that the only time I've ever had pests or problems is when I get gifted plants from a friend.
So
I always bring in a nightmare, but if I start from seed with clean materials and brand new products, the pressure isn't there, and then doing preventative is a lot easier than doing a curative. So I'm a big believer in preventative maintenance. I'm a big believer in keeping your eyes on the plants. If you start to see any one or two little bugs, you go for control right away.
Yeah.
Don't try to get into a reaction where it's like, I can push it till the end, and then, no.
You're not going to make it.
You won't make it.
Because it's exponential.
Today's bad, tomorrow's worse, and then by the end of the day, they've eaten your plant.
Yeah, so. And then they're coming after you.
And then they'd live there, and then you have to move. Pest control is a trickier question because it's, we don't deal with a pest control product ourselves, but preventative maintenance is you do due diligence. You keep the monsters at bay. If you know your friends have mildew and they said it's cured, they didn't cure mildew. It's there forever. If they have spider mites or root aphids and their plants look like crap in their garden, it's best not to take clones from friends who are just, it's why we all don't share the same girlfriend. We all be sharing each other's problems. So it's just...
First time out, would you go with a seed or a clone, which I'm sure both have their own issues?
Yeah. I mean, I personally like the seed because I want to be able to control the whole thing all the way through as far as health, pests, and issues. A lot of people don't have that kind of time because you have to get the seed to a maturity stage, and then it can be transferred into flowering, and then you have to wait to see what sex it is. If you go all the way to that point and it's 10 weeks out and it's a male, then it's a lot of work starting over.
Yeah.
Where it clones, it's coming in from a source that can guarantee it's a female.
Sure.
I think if you're to start with clones, it's the easiest way to start, but it's doing that first week of quarantine, mildew treatments, mold treatments, and pest treatments to make sure you didn't invite in a nightmare from a friend or a dispensary's garden.
Into your clean environment.
Because a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of dispensaries you go to buy plants from, they're laden in root aphids and spider mites and micromites. And
the kind of people that come in there shopping are the kind of people that have gardens where there are, so it can just come in through the door.
Oh, or pets.
Yeah.
They got 6 Dobermans outside, a couple poodles. They're bringing in mites.
Hospital's a great place to get sick.
Usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no. And then, the other problem, too, is a lot of people are misdiagnosing plant issues right now with pests or potassium deficiencies or magnesium deficiencies, and you have to kind of go back in the lineage of where that genetics coming from and make sure that somewhere in that crossing path of genetic breeding there isn't a hemp-laden viroid that is more common than not right now. And you can find lists online, and it's normal. That's what happens when overzealous breeding occurs, is you start to breed in 1 or 2 bad things that then take off and then become very, like pig. I'm saying it, but they've got a few dog walkers and Skywalker OGs, and all of them have the exact same hemp viroid. And when you walk in, you're like, oh, hemp viroid, hemp viroid. They don't have a single pest on any of their plants. There's no mold, there's no mildew, but there's that exact same look on every plant. They finally had it all tested, and they all have the viroid.
This is like the old royals that had the weird chin or something, because they've been
poorly bred for a long time.
For a long time.
So, it's knowing what your problem actually is. And the downfall of that one is most people are coming at us as magnesium or potassium deficiency, because you'll see that intravenous browning. And it'll look like potassium, but the leaves, everything's perfectly fine except for that degrading cell. And that's the virus that's taking out that cell tissue. And now it's figuring out. Now, we found with optimal health and optimal feed conditions, we can really get that to express very little.
Okay.
The downfall is that's, even with my favorite growers, they can hit that window for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then something in the plant changes, and they can't either keep up with feeding or it's too fed, and then that symptom shows right back up.
So this
is there though.
This isn't Lyme disease. This is Parkinson's. This is something that you got from.
No, this is more like a birthmark that is on anybody who breeds with it gets the permanent birthmark.
I got you.
So it doesn't decimate the crop. It doesn't destroy the yield. It doesn't hurt the terpene profiles. But when you walk in and you see the foliage looking that way, it would be a panic for most growers. They're like, okay. I've got one guy right now, I'm trying to work through this email because at the end of the day, he's got the viroid. The downfall is we have to go through every step on pH, parts per million, his slurry, what he's using, come right to the end game of you have the hemp-laden viroid. That's very common. It's going to be hard to explain to a very brand new grower because they don't know what the hell that is. But all these commercial farms will tell you what the hell it is because they all have it. Or not all, but many have it.
So is this like some people got a fat belly, some people got a fat butt?
Kind of.
It's a disadvantage to this plant that you can't overcome.
Yeah.
And it's not a
But
pest.
if you like the genetics, you got to run it.
Sure.
The downfall, because that's it. If you like Skywalker OG, it has it, and it's going to carry every time because it's built into the genetics.
So you have to plan. You have to know this guy's he's not going to do well with X, Y, and Z, and you have to help him out in those.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's a tricky game.
Deep stuff there. Good answer.
That's why I like seeds, is usually you'll end up with a hardier seed out of the gate, and they tend to have the truer genetics of that parenting breeding group, and you get the biggest yield out of your first generation crop of anything. It's the strongest of the generation is the first, and then everything below that will be just slightly less strong.
So the clone doesn't make the seeds because it's a female.
No, clones will make seeds because it's a female, and you can take a male and still pollinate it and make seeds. The only way they will make seeds
is a female. I guess I said that wrong, but if you get a seed from a clone, is it going to have the same problems as a clone from the clone?
No, not as long. Yeah, oh yeah, because
Yeah.
the clone has that viroid in it, and it's been created. Now you've bred that again. So that's what's happening is poor breeding happened, and we bred in viroids.
Okay. It's a lot to take in.
Man.
That was JKey420 that asked that question. Or he didn't ask a question, he made a comment. So thank you. Don Juan. We've talked to Don Juan before, haven't we?
Oh yeah, Don Juan just got approved for a house. It's big news.
Housefly.
Boy, he's going to be flying to his house because you got a house for him.
Nice.
His girl. So
Outstanding.
congratulations, Don.
So he says, does one shot raise the pH of soil?
It can. There is like this much limestone in it to dry it, but the pH increase would be momentarily for 1 or 2 waterings while that just dissipates out.
So little as to make no difference.
Yeah, I'd say it should make no difference. Now, depending on your water source and your potting soil and what's left in that, it can help react to something in there, but the amount of lime and calcium that we put in that product is only to dry it and not to promote alkalinity or calcium uptake.
So if you're having alkalinity issues, one shot in your soil will not help with those, or it will because it's giving you some nutrients, but it's not physically
Well, it's
making
not going to help the pH part
better.
of it. Yeah,
it's just
no,
going to
you'll need Chimera for that.
Yeah, so it's going to save you maybe into there's some more nutrients there to get stripped out, so it takes longer, but it's not going to affect in building any kind of resistance too.
Yeah, and with the alkalinity piece, as your soil's pH is dropping, what's built into one shot is being digested by microbes versus our liquids that have to be absorbed at a pH.
Okay.
Because when you're feeding our bottled stuff, the pH has to be correct because there's no microbe breaking it down.
There. Yeah, okay.
But if you just throw one shot in the soil and you've got a good microbial field, they regulate and balance their own pH when they eat and poop out the nutrition.
This is like people saying with the organics, you don't need to worry about the pH.
Yeah,
to some extent, but whatever that is.
And that guy lives in a perfect 6-9 water source, and there's no freaking issues with bad well water or anything.
I got you.
But yes, soil should be self-regulating.
Yeah.
But
so you could be in an alkalinity situation, fixing it with one shot and wasting your bottles because you've got the pH is wrong in the soil.
Yeah, they're still eating the one shot, but not accepting the nutrition from the bottle.
All right, I got a couple here. Paul Seawack and Everything Man. Paul Seawack says, I'm a combo grower. I use both salts and organics. Don't hate. The last run I used Triton's Trawl for my TT. Triton's Trawl? Yep. For my weekend feeds for 7 weeks. I've ran some photos many times. This is by far the most sickest grow in years. And pungent, I'm a believer in TT. And then the other one is, he says he uses some EM1. And then Great Lakes soil, water only with EM1, and then he does some Persephones once a week, and then the 4th week of flower, he uses some Herculean Harvest. So my point is with both these two questions is that these people are largely doing other stuff and using a few products from the line with their organic, water only thing, or with their salty grow. So if people are doing that, more power to you. But are those the best things that would you use the Herc or would? I'm just curious if you were doing that, if you're growing some other way, but you want to supplement or maybe bring in some flavor with these. How would you feel about that? And what would be some things you would do?
It's common, and I mean, especially I would wonder if the first person there wasn't growing more of a gassy strain or an easily strain, and that's why he chose TT over Triton's Trawl over something like Circes or Herc. The second guy entering Herc in the 4th week, I think he'd find a lot more benefit if he started a little bit early, only because it helps promote early onset flower sites. It helps develop that oil faster and the trichomes faster.
He's also using Aphrodite's extraction.
And then he's getting his carbon from that. And really the carbon piece of that, if all you're going to do is enhance a super soil for flavor and carbon, really the week 5 on is your ideal for that input. Yeah. But for flower development and strength and size, I would definitely be pushing that Herc a little bit earlier for the second guy. The other, we get it a lot where people will do a synthetic or mineral-based feed. They'll do 3 of those in a row, and then once a week they come in with just our calcium products because they're not in their nutrition lines and the other brands. there's not a whole lot of available forms of calcium in those other than calcium nitrate or worse, calcium chloride, which is a lot of people's form of calcium they use because it's so available, but it's a chloride version of a calcium source, not a phosphate source or a bicarbonate source. And so what we're focusing on is making our forms of calcium totally available, so the days you're not feeding your N, P, and K, you come in on the fourth day and you give them all available forms of calcium. And many of those growers see that instant response because they've never seen calcium being brought into the plant at that rapid of a rate, and they come in and things are praying harder, they're greening up, they've got more rigidity to the foliage, and it's just because they've offered them that one form of totally available calcium. And so if I had to tell people, or if I had to recommend products to synthetic growers, I usually start with Herc, then Afro, then Circes and Tritons, because that's going to have your best calcium availability. And if you're in veg, I highly recommend the Demeters because it does blend well with your most nutritional lines, but gives them that calcium phosphate, and not in the flower developing form, but in the milk fat form. So the plants are absorbing all that calcium with no problems, and it just makes for a healthier plant going through the veg cycle before it goes into bloom.
So when we're doing the Herc, this is muscles and bones situation here, like building the plant. This is not the teeth coat and mane. I mean, it's not for flavor. Maybe it is a little bit, but it's also
the beautiful
helping
thing
the
about
plant.
bone meals. If I had to pick one amendment to put in potting soil every single time outside of limestone, it would be bone meal, because it carries protein to give you slight forms of a nitrogen effect where it makes the plant want to grow without being a nitrate. The calcium phosphate of bones helps build that structure, that strength, but also that calcium helps develop oil, helps develop terpenes, helps develop flower sites. It's helping the plant naturally do whatever the plant wanted to, but it's giving them all the cell tissue or the cell building tissue it needs to complete each stage.
So this is a more healthy and complete form of what we would naturally think of nitrogen doing to the plant, to just...
because it's a slow growth, natural develop, and the plants can absorb it at a nice slow rate and still show responses from using it. So,
Yeah. So would you, obviously that probably you that feels the best way for that. But if someone's happy with their overall plant and they're looking for flavors and that sort of thing, is that a possibility of using Persephone's or Morpheus or something like that?
The downfall still though is that, and not to attack or even not to downplay anything, but when it's like me, 50 years old, I've got some things that I've given up on life, and guess what? I'm never going to be an athlete again.
No, it's never coming back.
Jogging, so I'm at the stage where I'm starting to flush with bone meal to make myself not so salty. And so it's in the same realm with plants. We build them all the way up to this point. They're still going to have that main structure, that main foundation. Then we're going to put makeup on it at the very end.
Okay.
So you are going to get enhanced flavors. You're going to notice a difference in what you're used to, but it's still not the potential of what it could be if it was only. And I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I think there's many guys who still run. It's just we see it a lot. Well, I've got one guy in Wisconsin who, for a whole year, he uses this 4-pack of synthetics because he knows he can get his yield.
Yeah, he knows.
And then he used all our bone meals, our Demeters, our Athenas, and one other product, a Zeus, all in bloom. But used this as his bloom base, and then came in the next day and went back and forth. And he's like, okay, I have to do this for my yield. He was getting Exolite.
I know I've got a thing that works.
Yep, I'm not going to mess with it. So then one time he did it just only Nectar, just to see for his own sake, like, am I missing the boat?
Sure.
And now he is only Nectar, and he's like, not only did I out yield. And I'm not guaranteeing this, and it's a fishing story. Yeah. But he did come back. He's the guy who gives me those pizzas right there. That guy.
Okay.
That's a whole box of Chicago pizzas. So, yes, a lot.
Yeah. Nothing.
But his whole thing was, if I ever hit 3 Alight, I'll buy your whole team pizzas. And if he did it all with Nectar, and now he's saying, I've never believed you. You're a salesman. I finally finished my first round, start to finish, and holy crap, I didn't realize how much I was masking the flavors.
Wow.
And so to have that much of a difference and still not miss your yield, because he's dialed it in. It's been 2 years of him running it, But he finally trusted in the fact that maybe I'll try one run without putting lipstick on the pig to see how pretty the pig will be. And he did well. We got 30 pizzas out of the guy, so it worked out awesome.
So if you were going to do your whatever grow and use Nectar as a calcium source, would you use Herc?
Oh, yeah.
That would be the one you would use. Because in my mind, it would be a more complete source, might be, using Medusas or something like that. But you're not getting the full...
No, because you're looking at Medusa, you got this much Herc in it, you got that much feather protein.
I got you.
And they're using their grow food, and they're using their bloom food.
So
I'm just putting in the one little bit to make their bloom food just more diverse.
Okay.
And I would recommend doing them on their own day, because as you know, with Herc, we use that as a flush to get rid of excess salt. So if you're blending them with salts, they tend to tie up some of your bloom food before it even gets into the soil. So if you're running a hybrid, run your synthetic feeds on their own days, and then come in and do a natural feed day on its own day. So you're not reacting them in a reservoir. So you're just throwing money away because they're tying each other up and making it lock out.
Okay, if I'm doing a synthetic grow, and I'm doing my Herc day, what do I pH it at? Does that
6.4.
Even if I'm doing...
Well, because it's still calcium uptake, and since it's a digested bone meal, we still need that to be available at watering, so 6.4.
And so, because it doesn't matter what I'm doing on the other days with my pH.
Well, it's not going to affect their nutrition. NPK stuff is 5.7 to 6.3, 6.2, so... Even one feeding at 6.4 is allowing ours to get in, and then the pH is already what it is in the medium. So
slurries
are less important when you come into an all-synthetic grow, because we don't know what really is building up at that point.
Well, but would you go on the lower end of 6.4, 6.8? I mean,
6.4.
You wouldn't be.
No, I would not be pushing. No 6.6s, no 6.7s. There's no point, because you'd be shocking your microbes in the soil if there's any there.
Okay. Outstanding. Let's see here. Matt Howard. Yo, man, I got a really important question. Is it safe to use Bloom Chaos on autoflower? Really need some help. I use it in my photos always, but not sure if I can use it on my autos. Please help. Bloom Chaos.
Oh, yeah. Well, like anything else with Bloom Chaos and autos, they definitely work with autos. And whoever telling people out there that, well, and I guess I won't tell you. My issue right now is that with a lot of auto growers, they're told to feed them like half strength because for whatever reason. And that never makes sense to me, since this plant is going 22 hours a day of light.
It needs more, not less.
Like, feed me. I mean, see more. It's the frickin',
and we got
horror plant.
There's no time to fix. And would you say it's easier to underfeed with Nectar than overfeed with Nectar?
Oh yeah, I think that's 9. Yeah, I think there's even a question coming up on that. But it's easier to underfeed than overfeed. But with Chaos and autos, here's the recommendation for Chaos and anything.
Yeah.
Start at quarter strength for a week. Go to half strength for a week. Go to 3/4 strength for a week. Oh shoot, go back to half strength. Or they can take it. They can take it. Get up to full strength, but most genetics can handle full strength. We never recommend going full strength out of the bottle, out of the gate, because this plant has no idea what you're doing, has no track history of, well, Mom used to get this when I was a baby. Yeah, no.
Like an Irish girl in the sun.
It is, literally. And you're holding a giant sun in July. So with autos, start slow. And with each genetic, document, because a lot of these auto genetics can handle it because they just want to eat so aggressively.
And they might take more. You might go 1.5.
Some guys do push it harder, but with anybody, brand new genetics, brand new crop, brand new plants, start it at least half strength and increase it just to see what your plant is going to respond to it. But it's not dangerous for autos by any means. A lot of people use it. They get way bigger football yields out of it. It's just... dialing it into their genetics.
I suppose everything may be more dangerous for autos because of the nature of you're on a clock.
You got 12 weeks to start to finish. So,
but it's no different from anything else in that the nature of that plant is what makes it different, not the nature of the Bloom Chaos.
Yeah, no, the Chaos isn't going to affect it any different, other than that plant is on a trajectory to finish, and you have no control on it starting to finishing flower.
So I do quarter, I do half, I do full, I do what do I see when I'm pushing the edge?
Oh, I mean, usually you'll go from this to this to this to this to this, and it's like when you're here, that's a good stop. Stop when you go in and they're praying every time you give them that amount. Yeah. That's the amount. Okay. You don't need to push it harder because when they're doing this every day, they love you.
As I'm pushing them harder with this, would I be watering more? Would I be doing anything different as I'm pushing harder?
If you're pushing harder beyond what the feeding schedule says, 6-to-1 with Herc is kind of your baseline. So, but with most of these auto guys, they don't even get to the 6 tablespoons of Herc.
It's done by the time.
You don't really need to ever get to that point. Okay. So, I think with them, it just comes down to you're already running a regular feed schedule. Your slurries are going to tell you, because if you're applying chaos and you're in the halfway through flowering with an auto and your parts per million are 200, they're clearly eating all the liquid you're feeding them. So bump your feeds up so that you don't start to show the calcium deficiency, because you will. Chaos will show you any hidden hunger. First, it'll show you calcium deficiencies. Yeah. Then it'll show you all the other things you're missing. And a lot of that comes back as it's burning. And it's like, no, it's rapidly decaying from lack of food. If you're at 150 parts per million in your soil, you aren't burning, you're starving, and your plants are eating themselves. It may look like a burn. If your plant burns here first, it's not burning, it's eating itself. If your plants burn here, it got burned on your last feed. Or the lighting.
Okay.
But new growth will show nutrient burns. Old growth shows nutrient needs, because if it's eating itself to feed its new growth, you're not giving it enough to support the old growth. And that's huge. A lot of people are like, I got all these yellowing leaves on the bottom. And it's like, oh, great, your parts per million are 150 in your soil slurry. So they're eating themselves. What's that mean? Cannibals. You have a small village, you cut the food off, there's going to be 2 guys left, and each one of them's going to have a rock waiting for the other one to turn their head. That's what I'm telling you. Okay.
I think we answered Ben Squire's question, or not Ben. Let's see here. That was another question. Was starving. Is that the one we did?
No.
He said. Dab says, I was wondering, since you can't overfeed per se, is a sign of newt burn actually a plant starving? So we kind of answered that. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's when you take a slurry test. Now, if your slurry test comes back 1,200 parts per million, they're burning.
Yeah.
But if it's under 200 or under 300, even, you're on that borderline of starvation. So. Yeah, I always just make sure people. This is why the slurry is so important to me. I get so many emails. This is my issue. This is what's going on, and the slurry tells the whole answer. And it's like, I don't know why we're so adverse to getting the slurry tests.
I do.
Why?
I have an idea. I think because when you're new to something, or maybe not even new to growing, but new to doing this or new to doing the slurry test or stuff, it's easy to not trust your results because you're doing a little experiment. And I don't know if you've done a lot of experiments. They usually don't fucking work.
I've done a few.
So, you got the micrometer and you measure 5 times, you got 5 different measurements because you haven't figured out the micrometer yet. So I think people feel like that I don't know if I'm on the right track. So if you were new to doing the slurry test, you're like, I'm going to do the slurry test. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. How would you make yourself feel more confident you're getting a solid result from the slurry test?
Well, luckily today we have a community. And so it's literally taking that information and talking to 25 people that just did the same thing you did within a week. And it's, that's the hardest part, is it's trusting the community versus trusting yourself. You're never, go buy 5 pH pens and you're going to blow your head off because seriously, you've got 5 different numbers. It's getting to a comfort zone of looking at the plant, knowing your equipment, knowing how to do the slurry, and then triangulating that, saying, well, my plant looks like this, the pH says this, and this is what I've done. Yeah, this is my problem.
So you might be do a slurry test very often and take it with a grain of salt until you start to get a feel for, I'm getting consistent results of my slurry test, and so I feel like even if I'm wrong, I'll see a up or a down.
Well, you have a pattern, and that's it. Is if you build enough data, the pattern shows itself. And that's it. It's like, this is why you don't take 1 experiment or 2.
Yeah.
If you don't take at least 7, you have no average. You literally, I guess you can take 3 and get an average, but even then, I can take 3 meters out and you will literally go crazy. Yeah. So what my biggest issue as a guy who likes to help customers and does offer the customer support piece, I get the slurry numbers, and some of the numbers I read them right away and going, that's impossible. I mean, bless your heart, but now I need to ask you, when was the last time you calibrated said meter? Because if your plant is living in this, are they like do you have a smoke alarm in the room? Because they're dying.
Your plant is doing really well considering, if that's the number.
Yeah. So that's hot enough to melt a car. And so, yeah, we may want to flush. So I have to take the information I get from the customer and then try to, with a picture, with their data, and then sit there and go, okay, what I'm seeing should be this. Now I have to ask them, and they, it drives some people crazy.
Yeah.
Some people really appreciate it, but now I need you to calibrate your meter for me because I'm pretty sure. And you know how many times they come back and say, "Oh man, my meter's been out of calibration for a minute." And it's like, okay, well, maybe you should check your calibration once a month just for sport.
Well, it might be an idea.
If your meter's older than 4 months old and you're not at least double check, don't have to recalibrate it. But you better stick it in 4.0 solution once a week to see if your shit went sideways or not.
Yeah.
Because the next problem you're going to have is going to be a pH off in your slurry, and your meter hasn't been lying to you because it's off.
Well, one of our most popular videos is the one I did about taking care of your pH pen. So I'm sure people are out there, like, of all persuasions, looking at it going, how do I get this fucking thing to work?
Oh, man, yeah.
Because the instructions are not clear.
And I can attest to that because not all customers are super highly intelligent, and we've had a few that shopped our store in the past, back in the day, and I remember one customer individually, he just kept bringing in pH meters. Like, they were disposable to him. Like, once a week, this one failed. This one failed, and we're like, I don't understand. And finally we got to him, it's like, what are you doing? So what do you, go through a day on what happens this meter. It came down to, after literally an hour and a half of discussion on this one day, and all my employees Lisa remembers this, Tim Snyder, the guy literally said, I store it in a tree in kombucha. And we're like, what? And he literally said, it doesn't say not to. The instructions don't say. Welcome to your brand new Blue Lab pH meter. Do not store it in a tree in kombucha. Number 1. I'm like, literally, this is why we have hot coffee. Contents may be hot because dumbasses just because it says it doesn't say to not store it up your ass. I don't see it up in your ass right now. So that was just like, holy crap. This is where America has gone, is to where we have to tell everybody exactly what to do, or else they didn't say Tanata. And he literally said Tanata.
Tanata.
Oh, wow. So, there.
Yeah, no. I was down in Mexico, as you may or may not know. And we rode from the airport to the cruise ship on land. And it's like 4 lanes of traffic in what should be 2.5 to 3 lanes of traffic, with no lines.
Oh, no.
With traffic everywhere, with giant speed bumps this tall with just like a little bit of curve to them. It's a madhouse. And there's all these people that, they're just driving through it. But the thing I noticed about all these people, they weren't that worked up about it.
Oh, no. Well, they're all in rentals.
And it's like, it's all good. They're just kind of cruising along. And I think that's what the testing. It's just, do the slurry test. Don't get too worked up about it. See what it is. And
I applaud the guys that can get through grow after grow after grow without, like, I have one guy right now, I did all this, didn't do one slurry test this whole run. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm glad. It saves you time until you come at me because your shit burned up because you didn't do a slurry test and you knew how to, and you know how. Because the nice thing about slurry tests is that it shows you, even if you do it, towards the end of veg, once at the beginning of bloom, and one mid-bloom. It tells you a week or 2 in advance what's about to happen to you. Because what's happening here reflects in the plant a week later. If you're reading it in the soil now, and your plant's already messed up, that happened a week ago.
Yeah. You think you're slow before you have coffee. Look at a plant.
Oh, man.
That thing is slow.
It says it grows every 3 inches a day, but not by what you did yesterday. It's what you did 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And so if you see a number once a week and you're like, wait, that's not right. Plants look fine. Well, they're about to not look fine. Yeah. So you have now this window to fix this. Or in a week from now, you're going to give me the same slurry and it's going to be worse. And your plants are actually going to show those results of those test numbers. So don't be the Tanata guy and read outside the box. Some instructions assume there's more to that by common sense. They need a common sense peel, or they peel off the backside of something. And also, your dog is not a good reservoir.
Well, and you're probably better off following the instructions poorly than making up your own.
New instructions, and you're not an electronic technician. It's probably wise to stick with what they know and tried and true. So, kombucha, not a good storage solution for any meter probes. And a tree is not a good location for said probe to sit in.
But it's got what plants love.
Exactly. Well, it's in my garden.
No,
I get it. It's in your garden. You can just walk over to the tree and pull it out of your kombucha and test your shit. Oh, my goodness. So.
I think we should use water on the plants. No, the Brondo.
Yeah,
it's got what plants love.
Electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? They're what plants love. I just did that guy pretty well. That was a pretty impression.
Of the
main guy. I've got good
Idiocracy?
Yes. Ben Squire, currently fighting spider bites. I'm having a little trouble with the elocution here. What do you call
you
that?
just got back from vacation.
That's it. I'm not 100%.
You're not enunciating well.
Not enunciating well.
No, he's got Mexico brain.
Yep.
Maybe I should get one of my amigas up here to translate your stupidity.
Perhaps. Currently fighting spider mites because I'm dumb.
We've all been there.
Great video. Thank you so much. This was the video I did with Mariah LaChapelle. I drove all the way up to what's its name? That little town up there where the Air Museum is.
Oh, yeah.
And she did a whole thing about spider mites because it was a huge fucking deal.
Yeah.
Is it still a huge fucking deal? All these pests and everything?
I think it's a problem. I don't think it's... I mean, I don't know. It seems to have waned a bit, and I think we were chatting about it a little bit earlier. A lot of the viroids have been popping up and proving that they're not pests, but viroid instead. But, I think, like, we've had waves and waves and waves of, like, root aphids and hemp russets, and they're still all there. They're all still very prevalent. People have gotten more clever at treating them and gotten even more clever at preventing them by preventative maintenance.
Cleanliness or chemicals and things like that, or
anti-pesticides? Well, that's it. Natural pesticides and essential oils and things that don't affect the plant's ability to produce, grow, and breathe, but also make it hospitable for pests to actually thrive in.
Do you think with LEDs and other advances we've had that have made the plants naturally bigger, stronger, and healthier that the pests are...
No, if anything, we've made plants bigger, stronger, and weaker through genetic trading. I mean, because when you breed for something, you lose something. And often we... Well, I mean, the viroid is a perfect example. We're going for this terpene and this yield, but we had to put this viroid in here to do it, you know? And I think we're seeing the same thing is plants actually become weaker in the sense you're not breeding for strength. The guys that are breeding for strength are for hemp. They're actually producing hardy plants to be able to handle anything so it can go through to fiber. When it comes to flower, it's if you're breeding for strength and resistance, you usually are taking away from quality and production.
It's like making a racehorse.
Yeah.
He's brittle. He's fast, but he's brittle.
He'll snap and And so it's tough. I won't say that they're gone. Every year expresses a new battle. I think we're coming out of winter and a slow winter in a sense. So the conversation isn't loud right now, but let them get planted. It'll get loud again.
Okay. Good answer. Jamie Westwood. Grew some Acapulco gold not too long ago. Honestly, compared to other stuff I've grown lately, it definitely was lacking. I'm going to give it one more try with this OG plant. This wasn't really a question, but, the genetics is stuff. Good.
Oh, no, you were mentioning this one earlier, apparently, about flavor.
Oh, we did talk. Yeah. This is all kind of circled around. That things have gotten better with everything, it's kind of seems like. Maybe the good old days weren't the good old days.
Well, but now the true medicine of that plant is still there, and the true genetics of that plant. So the nice thing with that is you can take that plant and cross it to the thing you really, really like in flavor and taste, make something new with the hardiness of an Acapulco Gold, and put it in with something fancier like, Gorilla Snacks and see what you can come up with, and you can get the flavor. But unfortunately, with these really old genetics, which I kind of like those old world flavors because they're not super heady terpy like the bag of pine haze.
We're smelling it gets you high.
It's giving you more of those earth tones, and very much what land races were doing back in the day. But it's giving you what it really was originally, like how it affects you. Well, I've got one guy, Jason James, I call him, out of Minnesota, who grows some landrace and landrace crosses, and some of them are just, they're not what the dispensaries want to look at. They're not the super manicured, high-class looking little flowers. They're kind of loftier, a little bit more bud size and airy. But wow, the difference. I mean, it'd be something that, honestly, like if you were ever to take up smoking, that's what I would. It's not
try
the flavor. If you want to feel it, this makes you feel comfortable, but not.
Well, I don't like going to the $300 plate steakhouse. I just get nervous and annoyed and I don't like.
And you're getting a Costco steak for $300.
I want a burger. I just want a burger. I like it better. I don't like. No,
and it's been like that pine stuff that you smelled. I like that one because it is the medicine for me. Is the ability to have all those terpenes affect me, my bloodstream, my mood, my enhancement. I mean, you physically changed. I mean, I got emails and comments after that show because they're like, man, I don't know what was in that bag, but you blew Bob's mind. It was like you smoked it or something. I'm like, he didn't smoke it. I promise you that.
It's something else, though.
But knowing that, it's like, all these new consumers, these people who never tried cannabis because they were so afraid to because it was against the law, but now it's legal, and they're running out and they're getting 34% high THC flower, and it's like, that's not good. You're not going to enjoy that. It's like going out and going, I've never drank before. Let's go get some tequila from Mexico. You just don't do that.
That will cure you of wanting to drink.
You will not. And that's curing people from not wanting to smoke when they just go, hey, I'm doing great, but I'm super high.
So, when I was down there, I got a Dos Equis. And it tastes like a Sam Adams now. I remember Dos Equis was funky. You remember? I mean, it was like...
Well, it's because by the time it gets here, it's skunked.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever had Moosehead beer in Canada and Moosehead beer here? Here it tastes like skunky assholes. And when you go up there, it tastes like really good Canadian beer. It's because it sits in a warehouse in America where a bunch of white people are like, it ain't Cinco de Mayo yet, don't want it, so they don't drink it.
So my question with that is that are these Acapulco Gold actually the Acapulco Gold, or is it?
Well, that's the one thing is who'd you get it from? But I mean, I do know, folks. I've had true Acapulco Gold. I've had true blueberry. I've had true Afghani. I've had true. I've got one guy in California who breeds off of nothing but landrace. And he has landrace. He has landrace females, he has landrace males, and he doesn't do anything with the flower because he's just using them as a platform. But he gives me the flower to consume every once in a while when he's through town, and they're so unique and they're so. You really get a bigger picture of how the breeders or where the breeders came from and where they went. But what makes me sad is they all went for the highest potency and not like the highest. Well-rounded, full-spectrum
They're looking for numbers to
that's where
put
the market is.
On a jar.
Unfortunately, fast food, bigger's better. Like weed, bigger's better. So people all want the higher THC. Although, like the James guy, Jason I was talking about, he literally can, if you sight on scene, rolls you one, pre-rolls it, and you consume it. At his 18%, most people are going, oh man, this is just like, whew. That's incredible. I'm melting. I feel comfortable. I'm not anxious. I don't feel paranoid. It's like, well, that's what 18% feels like. Because at 34, you've almost doubled that. And you're like, oh, the cops outside my house? Why is the dog talking to me? Is there a cat here? Or the cops in Michigan is like, you need to send an ambulance because I think we're dying. Why? Well, we ate a bunch of marijuana.
I can smell colors!
Like, everything's going really slow.
Joe Rogan said, you think you're going to die. You never do.
Never have, never will.
Oh, jeez. So this is Trip Soup. We're not going to get to this. Can you and Scott do a more in-depth talk about the different ratios of Herc, Triton, and Circes when running different strains for different terp profiles? Like if I am running for a sweeter strain versus if I'm doing a diesel or herb strain, or just run them and what will happen with their profiles. So that yes and no, right?
I mean, I would say if you just hung. Oh, go ahead.
You want to make the healthiest version of it, and then you'll get a lot of terps out of it. You're going to get a lot of flavor. And if you don't like the flavor, your easiest path is probably the genetics. But you can certainly do stuff with the nutrients to enhance different things.
And his question, I mean, it is like I know my genetic, I know the potential, and I want to do X to it. What's my ratios? And it's a good question, and it is something you do kind of have to experiment with.
Yeah.
But my latest version of at least the bone meals, the Herxers. And Tritons, and Aphrodite should just be a piece of this no matter what.
No matter what, you use some of that
sugar and your carbon piece.
It pushes those more, expresses those more better.
It really helps develop the oils that are going to make the trichomes, which are then going to express the terpenes a little bit stronger.
For that you put the thing on top of. Yeah, okay.
But what I would look at, so when I'm looking at those three main bone meal sources that we're really seeing, and really Pegasus too for the fruity piece, but let's just say just the bone meals he's talking about. Herc is my foundation.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm putting all my weight on. So my foundation is either going to be 1 to 4 tablespoons, depending on how aggressive my plant eats, how often they eat, and how hard I'm pushing.
And that's got very little to do with anything other than a way of growing a plant.
It's like if my terpene, the best part of the plant's terpenes right here, Herc is giving me this.
Yeah.
So it's everything in here, and then it's like, well, I know this is going to be my diesel.
Right.
Then I'm going to do a 1 Herc to 2 Tritons to really push the diesel and none of the, well, not none of, but a lot less of the broad spectrum and go for just the diesel. So I would do a 2 to 1 Tritons to Herc. If I was going for more of a full spectrum terpene profile with an enhanced diesel, then I'd go 2 Herc to 1.
Okay.
Basically, it's just adding in this one ingredient to enhance that a little bit more. Always keep your base of Herc at that schedule label. I mean, the feeding schedule level, because that is giving you the gassy terps, and it's giving you all the terps that plants wants to express. But all these other elements will bring in just enhance that one set of terpenes you're really looking to enhance.
Okay.
So fruity, flower, floral, Pegasus, gas, fuel, diesel, ethanol, methanol, Tritons, earthy, fruity, florally, but mostly earthy. Circes. I really want the floral and the sweetness. Pegasus. But Herc, foundation.
So you might like molasses barbecue sauce, and I might like mustard barbecue sauce, but we're still going to have the same ribs that we're going to put it on. You don't want to fight. If this one's gassy, you're not going to try to fight it to make it something else. But if you've got this thing and you're like, well, I like ketchup on my fries, I'm going to always have ketchup. And I'm having onion rings, ketchup. I'm having potato chips, ketchup. That's over here, you can kind of lean into that a little bit with those things you're talking about. But you wouldn't fight this genetic to make it that genetic.
If your plant's called blueberry and you want it to smell like diesel, it's not. So don't push Tritons on it, because it'll enhance something, but it's not going to make the berry, the fruity aromas come out as well as something like Pegasus and Herc and Circes. But if you're, same thing, if you're running OG diesel or, diesel OG, it really comes down to, I don't want to try to make it florally and fruity. I'm going to pump the Tritons, but I'm going to keep the foundation of Herc in there. Herc, from the very get-go, it just enhanced the plant's health, the flavors, and the finished product. And then the addition of all these different elements over the last 10 years of developing them really kind of shine a spotlight on different terpenes in these plants. Sure. And it was by accident of, I don't want to use cows because they're very sweet and I feel bad about killing them, so kill fish for me instead. No problem. Go kill the fish. Give them that. And it's like,
the fish were already dead, but what
a difference. This is amazing. What a difference that. What does this type of bone meal do? What we never found is like chicken bones.
No, doesn't work.
They just don't dissolve right. They don't. I mean, they might be fine in potting soil, but they're not great for dissolving, which is really bizarre. Sorry.
Okay. Is there ever too much?
Oh yeah. I mean, too much what?
Terp. Too much flavor.
Oh, I mean, I think you could say maybe, because that was only this much in that bag.
Smelling it.
Kicked you in the ass. So, I mean, I don't personally know. I think there's some people that find it to be annoying when it is so. It's like a Swisher Sweet when you're like, I can just taste it on everything now, and it's like, to me, I love that I can taste my joint, but when I can't,
it doesn't get too sweet as much as it gets more complex and it's still the same flavor. It's just
enhanced
more,
and deeper and well, I mean, it's literally wine connoisseur level of I taste on the front and then the notes of this on the back and I can that burnt it, blah blah blah. Yeah. So I mean, it really boils down to the consumer. I personally, I mean, like you said, you felt elevated after just inhaling those terpenes, and that was with zero active ingredient. Yeah. So if you can. To me, that's half our medicine. Yes. I can sit there and grind up getting ready to smoke. If I'm like in crackhead day where I'm just like, I'm going to smoke joints all day long. I don't care what it smells like anymore because I'm just a crackhead. I'm smoking, I'm done. Yep. It's Saturday morning and got nothing to do. Yeah, you got to go work. That's why I smoke that pine stuff. It makes you go, okay. But it's one of those where like at night, it's not about how high can I get before I go to bed. It's how can I put the pain away? How can I ease my mind from today's woes? And literally half of it's when I get done grinding and I'm just like huffing that because it's that fresh broken cannabinoid. There's terpenes just expressing. I find that to be almost as calming as the actual smoking of it. Yeah. And it's incredible, the enhancement. And it's not just, because I only pick up X amount of terpene profiles because of my face accident, but it's amazing. Even the ones I know I'm not smelling that I know are there because everybody else around is picking it up. I know those are medically helping me. Sure, because that's a chemical activated in my bloodstream and my thought process. But I can't say that there could ever be too much unless you're just offended by great tasting weed. I don't see how. I don't know what you're doing here then. No, I've had plants that were too oily, like produced too much oil, where they were like impossible to grind. They would never stay lit. You really had to torch them, and it wasn't because and it's burned. Yeah, and it wasn't poorly cured or dried. It was just too much damn oil in it. So I mean, we've seen overproduced oil plants. Which is great if you're going in extraction. Yeah. But if you're trying to smoke it in flower, it's a little bit harder. Not great, Pop. But no, I can't say that there's bad. Okay. And then, I have to say, so in our last one, we were talking about the anal woman who doesn't do anal, but has the anally curing. Yes, okay. I didn't know where you were going the whole thing. Yeah, I was like, pause. She developed the super curing method. No, she was challenging the bro science of the grow bag. Her husband was going, I'm doing it this way because this is the way it's done. Well, it's considerably easier, and she's doing it this way because you have to burp the jar. You got to do this. And I'm with her, and I was with her, and we're all. She's the one who convinced me to try the grow bag. Yeah. Her name is Chris. Okay. Chris is our Midwest rep. Okay. So she's driving around all of Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Missouri, in our big van right now, and she's an amazing person. We're blessed to find her. She's been like the most amazing helper. We had, Botanic Assassin was working with us for quite some time as a consultant and has worked at a few shops, and Kevin's been a great guy out there in the field, and right now he's working on big hemp projects throughout the country, trying to help clean up soils and stuff. And so we're working with Kevin on a few projects, but Chris her and her husband Rob kind of stepped in to help us, hit. At first they were just helping us do trade shows because they're in the region. None of us really want to travel right now, and they love growing. They're great people and they're passionate. So the best part about them is their knowledge bank, which is filling rapidly, but it was about half full when I first really officially met them. Yeah, they're at 3/4 full right now and doing well with absorbing, but their passion is 100%. Yeah. And to me, as I'm telling them, I'm like, hey, when you go around these stores, nobody's buying products because of science. I mean, science in this world is just I mean, it's not about that. And almost everywhere. Maybe everywhere. No, anywhere. No, I'm not. Beyond aerospace, there is no science. Yeah, and even that, questionable at best. But the reality is as you can't hire, you can't go out and just put, hey, you must have passion to, fill out this resume. I mean, we sought them out because they just kept doing stuff for just out of doing passion. Yeah. And we're like, well, if you're just going to do it out of passion, what would you do if we paid you? So we've officially hired a sales rep. Nice. We're working with a consultant right now for the far East Coast. We had another individual in mind, great human being, just isn't in the time frame for where he's located, unfortunately. But Chris and Rob, you're going to see them more and more throughout the Midwest. There's a lot of they're going to do a lot of table days, a lot of table talks around at a lot of stores around the country. I know she'll be posting a lot of things on the Nectar pages of like locations she's going to, and her Instagram will start filling up with a lot more stuff. But nice. I just wanted to mention that those people, she's not anal like in a crazy weirdo way, but she's very much a very highly intelligent person who, you know, she was taught a way, she knows the way, bro science comes in. Well, the difference between women and men in this industry is men believe in bro science and women question everything. Yeah. And that's great.
This made me think of something. I don't even remember where it was, but it was some guy was writing about it, that his wife, he was telling her that she was driving the car wrong with the clutch. And she said, I've been driving my whole life. I've never had a wreck, and I've never had a clutch replaced.
Yeah. So how am I wrong?
How am I wrong?
How many clutches have you gone through, Mr. Sporty Ass?
Yes. So I thought it was like, that's hard to argue with.
My father, at his end years, was a PGA Tour official. Mm-hmm. And right out of the gate, he goes, if you ever want to see golf played right, or if you want to learn golf, you watch the women's PGA.
Really? Yeah.
Women are systematic. They're very much... They do it to a T and master the moves. Men get up there and like, I'm going to whack this thing 400 yards. And then it's like, holy crap, is your back out from that hit? Because that is not a good-looking swing. It looks terrible. If I do that, I slice. So he's literally like, every sport, if you want to learn how to play it right, watch how women, because they get the fundamentals of things, everything down first, then they go out and make it crazy. Maybe not anymore with that.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe maybe it's a thing. They're going to be like that too. Maybe there won't be any more men.
We're working on it. So Chris is awesome, and pay attention because what they're doing is
outstanding.
They're coming to towns near the Midwest. They're going to be in a lot of spaces. They do our trade shows in the Midwest, and they're just passionate people they're learning more every single day. They know a lot already. She's building her confidence. It's sad to me when you see a woman come into this industry who's freaking smarter than most of the men you know in the industry. And they don't have the self-confidence. And I'm like,
I know.
Every woman that works for me over at the retail or has worked for me were badass women. Yeah. They all are. And they take no shit from the dudes. And it's funny because dudes will walk into our store and like, is there any guys here I could talk to? And it's like, that woman right there knows more about growing than this whole store. And you want to talk to that guy? I mean, that guy right there, he buys his weed. So it's... if you got a good woman working at a retail store, trust her intuition and listen. If they have a child, definitely listen to them because if their kid's still alive, it wasn't because the men kept them alive. It's because the moms keep them alive.
And I don't want to stereotype, but also with women, I've found that if they don't know, they won't make some shit up.
No,
I will.
And every guy out there will. So just know that.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you ask a woman something at a retail store for gardening, they're going to find the answer for you.
Oh, yeah.
If you ask a guy, like you said, he's going to lie to you and then sell you a bottle of something you never needed.
You need some of that.
Oh, yeah, what is it? CalMag.
That's a mag deficiency going on there.
You bet. Looks like you got a CalMag problem there. That's common.
Yep.
The woman will be like, that's interesting. I wonder. Let me call somebody. And they'll be on it, and you'll get a good answer, and you're done.
Somebody.
Yeah. I know a guy. So... But I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in.
Chris is
great. New guy's going to be coming on board. We'll mention him when he gets there. We don't like to mention them too early because sometimes they don't last. And if that's the case, then we just kind of like...
pretend like it never happened.
I mean, not that none of them don't last for...
No, well, a lot of times it was circumstances. A lot of these people that come in with circumstances where they've got, something happens in their life and they can't do it right now.
It sucks because they're all great people. And that's the saddest part is... I really invest in the human being in my companies, and I mean, it's really about my employees and their well-being and their I'd rather be hungry knowing that I'm hungry because I'll fend for myself, but I hate making other people hungry.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, these are good people, though, but there's my 2 cents on who's running around the country representing Nectar FAM.
That's the show, eh?
That's the show.
All right, chickadee jack!